Up next on DiCHiPi Unfiltered.
And how has your journey as an actress been? Like when they say you grew up loving film and performance, how did you come to discover that, actually, I want to be an actress? This is what I want to do.
Yeah. Actually, growing up, I wanted to be a lot of things. I had like a whole list of, you know what, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be a chef, I'm going to be a dancer, I'm going to be a politician. And like,
Even a politician,
hey,
ma'am.
bro, I wanted to be everything.
And then what happened? Yes. Why is the female condom not as easy to access as the male condom?
Because for the longest of time, the male condom was the one that was essentialized. So there does need to be a lot more investment because we actually call it an internal condom and an external condom.
Okay.
The internal condom, which is what is called the female condom, actually does support not only women or people with vaginas, but it can also be used by people who are in homosexual relationships, who are men who have sex with other men. Particularly if you know that for a period of 3 to 4 years, you are not trying to have a child, then you can look at IUD as well, which is inserted into the mouth of your uterus. Generally, the copper one is the best one because it has the least side effects.
DiCHiPi Salva. Welcome to another episode of DiCHiPi Unfiltered by JiK'iZiNTO. My name is Barbara and I'll be hosting you today, but I won't be alone because I'm being joined by someone who was born in South Africa and grew up on the streets of Pitori, where she fell in love with filmmaking and performance. She's no stranger to the screen, having been on DiCHiPi, of course, but she's also been in movies on Mzansi Magic and different series and SABC2 and this and that, so many different things, but the most important part is that she's not just an actress, she's a qualified actress, a studied woman. Her name is Nkateko! I think I should add singer as well, because that soprano that you hit right there, man.
Oh my God,
it's
I wish.
giving.
I wish.
Wait, I love your voice. Have you ever thought about like doing radio or like other mediums of
I
arts?
I've thought of doing voiceover acting. I've been wanting to do that.
Yeah,
actually.
I feel like you would kill it. As a Popeye.
As a Popeye.
Yo. I think you'd be the best Popeye. But you know, the Popeyes are Noko Mashaba. I don't know if you ever saw Noko Mashaba Popeyes growing up.
You see.
I think you're the perfect Popeye.
But yeah, no, I know. I've been wanting to do voiceovers.
And how has your journey as an actress been? Like when they say you grew up loving film and performance, how did you come to discover that, actually, I want to be an actress? This is what I want to do.
Yeah. Actually, growing up, I wanted to be a lot of things. I had like a whole list of, you know what, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be a chef, I'm going to be a dancer, I'm going to be a politician. And like,
even a politician,
hey,
ma'am.
bro, I wanted to be everything.
And then what happened?
And then I discovered actually at 14 years old what I really do like the entertainment industry. So I was like, acting. Oh, I like this thing. Let me go for it.
14 is a very specific age. What happened at 14 that
14?
made you realize? Yeah, because you said you discovered at 14. So I'm like,
Yeah.
was there something that was like a defining moment?
I actually liked the runway modeling thingy. Do you know that show,
Tyra, America's Next Top Model.
I was obsessed.
Ask me.
Now what?
I know it.
I am here. I'm so short. And I was so chubby. I'm like, I'm taking this thing. And then I actually discovered that, oh, I think I can act. I do love acting, even though I'm scared as hell, I was shy as hell. I think I do like acting. And then
And it
after
shows.
matric, yeah.
You
They were like,
decided
you know
that
what?
I'm going to do it for
Go
real.
for it.
And I think I can tell in your characters and Tabi saying that you're very like, you immerse yourself in the person because, I mean, who you are in real life, we've already discovered this. Like, I think it was the very first episode that we did where you were knocking things over and being clumsy, that you are similar to Ntabi Singh in some ways, but you're also your completely separate person. So it's very fascinating to see how you are just able to transform. Very crazy. How was that experience, like being on DiCHiPi? Because you've done a lot of things in your life.
Yeah.
But what was so special about playing Tabi Singh?
And Tabi saying, I feel like I related to her in a way because of her journey, because of her trades, and also the career that she is pursuing. I'm like,
Thabiso was
Makil.
pursuing a career.
Being a comedian.
Oh yes!
I like, how,
Sorry. You know, my
how?
thing is like, she's so like sex obsessed and boy
Yeah.
obsessed that like I even forgot
feel
that
like
this girl has dreams.
Exactly, exactly. So when I got the bio and everything, I was like, no, I'm going for it.
You are this person.
I not fully, but I do have Ntabi saying
In
me.
you.
You get what I'm saying? But I feel like even acting wise, you do have certain characters in you. You just have to find them. Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot from Tabi saying. I'm very excited about today's episode because we are talking about SAX and everything around it. But for me, what stands out about this particular series is that it's one of those things that I can watch someone grow as a character and actually be able to take notes that I will apply into my life. Like Tabi saying, going through the clinic process, talking to her friends, like those are things that are important when it comes to the conversation
And also
around
criticize.
sex. And also
Criticize the character, like the decisions they make.
Yes, I think being able to unpack it and walk through it is a very, I guess, refreshing element of being able to watch the DiCHiPi series. But this is all thanks to JiK'iZiNTO. And so because of that, I want us to take a look at the JiK'iFesto. Then after looking at the JiK'iFesto, just unpack exactly what JiK'iZiNTO is about and how it's going to relate to our conversation about sex. All right.
All
Let's
right.
go.
There's something undeniable about us in this moment. That pulsing energy the whole world can't help but watch. You feel it. How we're shifting the way things have been, creating a new narrative. Even when go tricky, go tanks, we're finding gaps. Going from all the go-wishing, no matter where you're from. One thing about us, we'll be unapologetic about how we express ourselves. We'll move like the aim is not to sweat, whether it's to piano, como at Vogue nights. Yeah, ne? What we do is elevated, never emulated. We sew our culture into design, use fabric to show how we thrive. Have drip that's gone international. Slightly D-skip, but we've made groove a sport of its own. Can shoot our shot, make a viral moment life-changing. Can be the pretty girl from Joburg that wins a Grammy. Can be architects of a new South A. Can know that even sitting at home, there's all this potential waiting to be unlocked. Even when life's not made sure. No matter the odds, people will stop sleeping on you. You'll stop sleeping on you long enough to rewrite your reality. So it's our time. Our time to shine. Our time to be generation starters. Our time to say things with our chest. Our time to JiK'iZiNTO.
So I've heard everybody's take on the JiK'iFesto except yours. I'm dying to hear, what are your thoughts on the JiK'iFesto and being a part of JiK'iZiNTO as an organization?
Yeah, I feel so blessed to be part of this JiK'iFesto.
That is such a cliche answer to
I'm
give. I'm
starting.
All right. Shock us.
I'm warming up.
All
Baba.
right.
I'm warming up. But yeah, I do feel blessed to be part of this JiK'iFesto because for me, this is a space. This is a movement. It's a movement that encourages action, and it's made for young people. You get what I mean? It's all about empowering young people, giving them the tools to become whatever that they want to be. This space for me feels so close to me because growing up, it's
Cry.
Can I have a tissue, please?
Oh, somebody help us with the tissue.
Can I have a tissue,
Oh my
please?
goodness. Growing up, tell us your story, ma'am.
But yeah, growing up, I feel like if I had this type of thing, everything else would have been.
I like how you say growing up, but
less.
you're 21.
Yes. How begenzani kanti? Mangikhula begenzani?
Yeah, okay,
Ngifike
fine.
njani ku 21? I was growing up. Bengikhula, exactly.
So when you were cooling, what happened?
When I was cooling, I had a lot of things to unpack. As I said, I wanted to be so many things. And to a certain point, it was overwhelming. Touch and go. Hey, I want to be a politician. Let me just, no, this is not working. Let me do this. And at some point, that thing, you end up feeling like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to achieve this. Am I really worth it? Am I those type of thoughts in your head, and having this movement that empowers you to go for what you want would have been a cherry on top.
And I think for me, it's the fact that they encourage exploration more than anything.
Exactly.
I think that's the one element that probably would have changed a lot of
Yeah,
our lives.
exactly.
Is being able to explore, okay, sexually, this is the things that I can explore. This is the safe way to do it. When it comes to my career, like Grace, we've seen her struggle as an engineer slash whatever, boxer, whatever it is that she's trying to do. Having that space and the agency and having the tools to kind of navigate those thoughts. Because like you're saying, it's a lot of thoughts that are going on in your mind. And as a 14-year-old, that's overwhelming. It's a big burden. So, I'm like, big sis, where were you?
Bro, exactly.
When I was having thoughts and I needed someone to talk to who wouldn't judge me.
My parents, there was this certain day my parents sat me down and they were trying to, get into the times, talk about
How
intimacy.
did they actually? I'm very interested in
How
the story.
they called me, ne? And then they're like, no, sit down. And I can feel, Luguti,
Something is going to happen.
why are you smiling? Why are you nervous?
Is that smile?
Yeah.
Okay, my darling.
Why are you nervous? So I sit down and they utter the first sentence. They're like, no, this age, you see nowadays, yeah, but we won't talk about intimacy. I'm like, whoa, I'm going to the bathroom, and I never came back.
Wow.
And we acted like nothing ever happened.
So the conversation never took place.
Hi, it never took place. They
wild.
tried, Shem. They tried, honestly. But I was not used to my parents talking about these certain things. It felt like it's an abomination to talk about it, And with this platform, with Big Sis, you can ask Big Sis about everything. We listen, we talk, we don't judge. So, Rena, we're used to, we talk and then you get judged. To go to, why are you even thinking about those type of things in the first place? So with Big Sis, it's like, yeah, I know my
And I
skill.
think what I'm also picking up from your story is that your parents didn't really know how to navigate the situation. Like, respectfully speaking, it was their first time being parents, they are also trying to figure this whole thing out. And I think as much as JiK'iZiNTO is a platform that's designed for young people, you're also making me realize that as adults, there's a lot that we can learn from engaging with the material on JiK'iZiNTO, especially if you're trying to navigate having a conversation that's relatable with your child and telling them about things like sex and self-play and pleasure and all these different things, consent, right, in a way that isn't scary or traumatizing to the child. Because when you hear a lot of people's like sex stories, very traumatizing sometimes. Like the way that people get to learn about sex isn't always the safest way to do it. And I think Ntabi Seng's journey is one of those where at least we get to see what it looks like for someone our age to be navigating those feelings. So I'm very excited today to bring on a guest because I think there's so much to unpack. Because how do you go as a character from saying, I'm going to have sex with my crush, to then at the end of things turning around and saying, actually, aksanyaka.
And now you're undecided. Am I even allowed to say akesanyaka because you feel like you are in too deep now? You get what I'm saying?
And that's the thing, though. It's like consent, yes, isn't as just kidding. It's not as simple as I said yes in the beginning. If I said yes in the beginning and halfway through I feel like it's a no, you should feel comfortable enough to stop and say, actually, this is a no. And I think it's something that people tend to feel guilty about.
Yeah, they do.
Like where you're like, you
feel like you have to repay.
You have to repay them.
You
for
get
all
what
the,
I'm saying?
Oh, rekela malomo. He buys you lunch when you are sad.
That was his choice, Baba.
That was his choice. And that's a real thing that needs to be unpacked. That's a real conversation that needs to be had. That sex isn't necessarily something that you do to transact the kindness that you've been paid. Love is, or at least my definition, let me not say love is, but in my opinion, when you say you love someone, you're willing to do things without expecting anything in return. So if the idea is that you're both in a loving relationship, then surely what you give to me, I shouldn't feel the pressure to pay back in some way, somehow. But yeah, Renale expert in the building. So I think, I think we should bring her in and then unpack all of that because Ntabi saying, what a problematic babe.
No.
Kanyisa Booi is a health communications specialist. In 2014, she was profiled as Male and Guardian's Young 200 South Africans to look out for, and then made a comeback again in 2021 as one of the women of power.
Hi, I'm Kanyisa Booi, editor of Eve's Apple the Mag. Catch me on DiCHiPi UNFiLTERED episode 10.
DiCHiPi Salva, help me welcome Kanyisa Booi. Kanyisa Booi is a health communications specialist. In 2014, she was profiled as Mail and Guardian's Young 200 South Africans to look out for, and then made a comeback again in 2021 as one of the women of power. Today, for a couple of years, she's also been the founder of the Apple of Eve.
Eve's
Apple,
Apple,
period.
yes.
Eve's Apple. And ma'am, welcome.
Thank
She
you.
said
It
thank
is
you.
so good to be at Chippy, even me.
Period.
Love it.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy celebrity, Mail and Guardian, superstar.
We are so
schedule
blessed.
just to sit with us.
It
We
feels
are really
so good.
blessed.
It feels so absolutely fantastic. I don't think there's any other place I would rather be in this
Period.
here
That is why you
moment.
must
That
stay. That is why you must stay. I was actually stalking you a couple of days ago, and I saw an article where you were saying that the reason you got into this is because of the young girls in the community of Durban. I think you were there, or you come from there, or what the story is, don't know. But what I do know is your passion came from recognizing the fact that it was difficult for them to negotiate safer sex with their partners.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that and how it played into your journey.
So I moved to Durban post-teen, so early 20s, to kind of seek out what it is that I wanted to do with my life. And I got into a lot of community work. And the community work was more around food security and really hunger and poverty. And then I realized in that process that there was a lot of gaps in the reproductive health work and also sexual health education. And part of that as well had been that the girls are having a hard time negotiating safer sex, and there's a lot of relationships with older people, and we can give them whatever names we want to give them, but negotiating safer sex is difficult because the person is being resourced, whatever it could be, from bread to education in that space. And so I moved very firmly into the space of education and trying to figure out what support is needed, because also I was young and I also understood what the difficulty was in negotiating in relationships where it's peer to peer, but when someone is older and much more resourced, what that looks like.
So, my lady, when you're speaking about sexual health, how important is it to know about body autonomy?
Not just body autonomy, but efficacy. So efficacy being that, how does my body work? When
I
it's
was gonna
working
ask you,
well,
Yeah.
when it's working well, what does it feel like? What does it look like? What is it doing when it's doing 1, 2, 3? And by the time it gets to autonomy, you have an understanding of how it functions. When you wake up in the morning and you're like groggy and you know, I didn't have enough sleep, or I was doing too much last night. That's what efficacy is. You sense make what's happening in your body. Once you get to autonomy, which is like a huger part, then it is the understanding that you belong to yourself. And even when I work with parents, I say children belong to themselves.
Yeah.
Knowing that you belong to yourself and the decisions that you make about your life and about your body is really, really critical.
And how much more difficult is that with people of color? Because like you're saying, you speak to parents about how children's bodies are their own bodies. But I know for me, growing up as a child, you don't get to say what you want, how you want it, or anything. The parent is the one that dictates that. So how do you navigate managing those dynamics with parents and children?
So I think it starts with simple things like when parents are negotiating with children, because you're constantly negotiating with children. And in that space, it's really important for children to know that their voices matter. So when the child says, I want noodles, and then you make them noodles, and then they go, I don't want noodles anymore. Validate that and move, because what that tells them is that what I'm thinking and feeling about myself is heard in this space, and it plays out in larger spaces. Generally, people say, it's better.
Yes.
And so what teaches the child is that my voice doesn't matter, and it plays itself out even in the larger scale of things. So by the time you're 20 and your person is saying that better, you've been already programmed to think that people who love you will still tell you that better if you are doing something that they don't want you to do. And already then you know that in this scenario, I'm not going to win, so you give in and autonomy is lost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So speaking about thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
So now for young girls, how do you know that you are in love? Because there's so many things that lead to that, and you're like, if someone does literally the most simplest thing,
Yeah.
the most nicest or simplest thing, you think now you're in love with this person. Now, or that person loves you because you're not used to, you know, a more nicer approach to people.
Even
So,
in the sense that
yeah.
you were saying that they'll date somebody or be in a sexual relationship with someone who's more resourced. It's like, now if my parents taught me that being a good father means I provide for you, I give you this and that, I might look at a partner and say, as long as he's giving me 1, 2, 3, then he's a good partner.
Yes.
But I don't necessarily look for the emotional connection or feeling safe around the person, maybe.
It's a difficult one to answer because if you have to think about the lifespan of someone who's had that kind of upbringing and sort of their learnings through time and coming to themselves. And I have to say this, even people who are grown are still trying to figure out what being in love feels like or looks like.
Tough.
You get? And so your not understanding is not necessarily unique to you. What is important, again, is to sense make for yourself. It feels good to me, right? And then you go with the good feeling and you keep checking with yourself about, is that right? Because the important thing is whether or not, am I doing this because this person undipe imali lunch? We like to say lunch. Is it the money for the lunch that makes me do this? Or is it, do I value this thing? Because we know the things that we value, right? So it's really just thinking about the things that you value. And once you think about the things that you value, it's also then determining what those little things feed into. So I'm not answering your questions because I don't know what being in love feels like in its fullest. Okay. But I know that as individuals, we know what love is for ourselves. And a part of it is really just checking in with the Kanyisa, babes, uyamthanda okanye. You know, don't lie to yourself.
Yes.
Because if it's joy you're going after, enjoy it. But don't lie.
I wanted to say, I think it goes back to what you were speaking about on efficacy, like knowing what your body needs and at what time. And when I think of the example you gave of noodles, to say, one moment I want noodles and then the noodles are done and I'm like, oh, mama, actually not really feeling the noodles. There's something that Nkateko goes throughout the process of deciding whether or not she's ready to have sex. And by the end of it, she's like, actually, I'm not really interested in having sex. I don't think that's something that I want right now. And I'm just going to keep my virginity. Like, all this drama is just not worth it. And so how do you go about navigating those conversations or just dealing with those thought processes? Like, what does the process look like to get to that point where you can confidently say, this is what I want?
So in the context of sex, specifically entering sexual experiences, it's really, really important for people to know that there's different ways of having sex. Because when we think about sex, we go straight to intercourse.
Yes.
Right? And when you're young and trying to figure out where you are, it's really important to explore about, like, what are the things that you like do you like being kissed and being touched? What are the things that you experience that you enjoy, right? And those things are a determining factor about, do you actually want to get to intercourse? And when you speak about intercourse, think about consequences. There's consequences. Do you want to deal with whatever that looks like, right? And because you are a responsible person and you're responsible for yourself, then you want to think about, okay, cool, since I want to do this thing, maybe I need to consider contraceptives, ask the questions, look out for what exists when it comes to those contraceptives. If you are in a relationship, situationship, interaction with somebody who you can't talk about sex with. And talk about sex is the full spectrum. You can't be like, when we're going to do it. No, everything. Like, so we want to do this thing, and I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, condoms, this, that. If you can't have those concepts, you should not be having sex with that person.
But
that's a
now,
good point.
what happens when you're in a relationship with this person?
Yeah.
And that person wants to have sex with you. Just like how Ntabi saying had a crush, but now since she is in that situationship, she's undecisive whether should I have sex with him? Should I not? Should I? But I don't know whether I want to. What are the ways to prevent pregnancy? If I do, You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Because now you also want to, you want to show that person that you love them or you're interested in them. So how do you navigate that?
Okay, what's wrong with I know first base, second base, third base. Like in those processes. And also I think the fact that you are still uncertain about it. And let me not there's no time let me not say no time, but it's a negotiation with yourself to figure out you know what I mean? And when you are still apprehensive, then it's cause for you to pause a little bit, right? And I mean, if you're gonna give it up or you're gonna have the sex, you're gonna have the sex, right? But it's so much better when you're confident and you're in it and you want it for your pleasure, because some of the important things about sex and why we want to have it is for the pleasure of it. Now you're laying there and you're nervous and you're not sure and you are giving it to this person, but they're also like, hey, are we doing this thing or not? Because you're scared. So it's just figuring out. First person you need to check in is always this girl. Because once you check in with this girl, even when you want to please your partner, it comes from a place of mnandirati, so let's do this thing. And it's you can never go wrong when you're there. And if someone wants to not be with you because you're not having sex with them,
That's
it's
not
very
your
questionable.
That is
in the
not
first
your
place.
person. I've
Very
actually,
questionable.
you're making me think of a situationship that happens in the series, right? So we've got two characters, Moteo and Bume.
Yeah.
And they're kind of in this very casual sex relationship where it's a no strings attached relationship. She sleeps with him, but like outside, we don't hold hands, we don't kiss, I don't claim you in public. I want to watch a couple of clips and then dissect it, because I think that's a big thing in our culture today, where there's a lot of friends with benefits or no strings attached relationships, but I don't think that there's a conversation, or conversations are had often enough about the consequences, like you were saying, of those relationships. Let's check the clips.
You're the one that I dream
Emma Pen. You're expiring the mas last year.
Oh, hi. You can't again.
Kenan umuminin sense of problem.
Ndaba khona into engiyenzile.
I get ready.
Okay, ready.
Ke batla go first time ya ke be le di roses and stuff. Ke batla
Oh, you virgin impela?
yeah. Ku budisa musina kwela rel kokole.
Yeah, mara mina bengije ukuthi yabo mhlambe bazama ukwenza izinto zibe spice yona nani.
What? Who lies about that?
Ngaphela impuma ngije ukuthi wena uyangikhalela wena.
Surprise!
Angizwanga. Ngiqeda ukulala nawe manje uzongitshela umlomo wami uyanuka Motheo.
Cha,
Ngizosenzana isixhobo Motheo, isixhobo.
lesi xupho lesi ngisithengele wena, mana ngizange ngithi umlomo wakho uyanuka, kanti waye ukhuluma so. He? Lesi xupho lesi ngisithengele wena ukuthi yabona mola engojeni. Ungasasebenzisi i-toothbrush yami. Mina nawe sesine-toothbrush masivuka ekseni. Lapha e-bathroom.
Chika zongisanganela. Suka wena, suka. Suka. Uya kule maroom khoma yakho futhi ngahamba mina ngekhaya. Hawu, nje.
Manje
Suka Motheo, suka.
kanti manje
Sala.
i-toothbrush.
So I think the biggest thing about this relationship that we just watched, for me, that stands out, is the fact that one person in the relationship is very confident in this whole, let's have sex, but let's do it casually, I don't want a relationship. Where the other person kind of is trying to, I don't know what to call it, because you are trying to introduce a relationship. You're softly trying to go in and say, here's a toothbrush, my baby. What if you just stayed over the night? You know, this person is actively trying to make it more than just sex. And I think they don't seem to be on the same page about what they actually want out of this relationship. Is that a healthy relationship?
No.
She said no. immediately, no, forget the experts.
No, we don't have to
forget
think.
the experts.
We don't have to think about
Yes.
this.
There's
Real.
nothing to consider.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a healthy relationship.
Why not?
Because they're not communicating with each other, Pila. What do I want? You get what I mean? Because another party wants this and this party wants this. So it's not a healthy relationship
Yes.
unless we are going for the same goal.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? And also with this type of situationships, there has to be boundaries that everyone respects
And
Yeah.
agrees to.
That is the most important thing. Because if we don't agree to every single boundary, now wait, Mara, you see, if we do this, it's not gonna be bad. Let's try. And we did say, no. So it's not a healthy relationship for me.
Kanyisa, if I'm in a situation like that and I'm the person who wants a relationship beyond the sex, how do I start communicating that?
Like, how did this situation
So we started by agreeing that the return is sex fail. But now because ultimately it is an emotional thing. Like
Yeah.
you're connecting with this person, you're vulnerable with this person. I then catch feelings along the way. How do I now?
I mean,
It's this
so
thing of saying catching feelings.
Yeah.
I want these things thrown.
Why are you catching?
No, because that's what happens. I went in there thinking that I'm gonna be strong. I'm just gonna have it and go and live a life without you. But I want you in my life. So what am I supposed to do now?
Talk to me, Auntie T. When we started, we spoke about it. So I definitely, I don't know if we can say it's unhealthy, but we can say that you haven't been forthcoming. Like, you haven't been clear because now things have changed for you, right?
Yeah.
And now what might be difficult is that you might want me to act accordingly because things have changed for you. You've now had feelings. Or maybe, I think people who are in situationships generally have feelings for each other.
Yes.
It's just the quality of, or the what kind of feelings they are. And so if they've changed into something a bit more, then you want to be able to declare by, hey,
Love you.
Take in the
Need you.
in my life.
Yes.
You
So-
know?
So how would you classify a healthy versus unhealthy relationship?
I think unhealthy relationships are generally dishonest. They generally have elements of violence. There is a lot of anxiety around what this thing is. It could be for one party, it could be for both parties. It's something that when you think about, you can't be at ease. And that's the sense making you can make in your body, because sometimes your brain will tell you, "Bah, it's alright." So, but your body will
body's
always
not
tell
at
you,
ease.
"The anxious, I'm not
Yes.
sure. Something just isn't quite landing for me," and you have to now explore what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I think with this particular one, I don't want to say it's unhealthy unless then the person who has feelings is now superimposing by what this thing must now look like, because
Which is
now
technically what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, Chile, tell the person, but you know what? Things have changed, you know, for me. So that then the person can then consent to whether or not we carry on with this thing or we stop, because I'm not able to, we don't have a shared understanding of what this thing is anymore. And so for me, I can't opt in anymore. I have to opt out. But without you saying it, uniki toothbrush, okay.
That's
Therefore-
romantic.
Is it romantic, ma'am? Nahana motho ha o ya toothbrush a re wa go romansa.
A toothbrush,
That's romantic, guys.
because then I can sleep over.
Guys, let's say that. That was romantic.
So whenever
Nna
someone gives you a
Musapo.
toothbrush, o tla mo nyala.
eh.
She said,
So
"Oh,
you-
eh."
But you guys are sharing meals amongst other
Yeah.
things.
She said, amongst other things.
So I just feel like, say it.
Yeah.
It. Because without saying it, then Bazok heard that dog. It's going to be rough for you, because they're going to carry on as per arrangement.
And you know, when you keep saying, like, say it, I'm thinking about the fact that people always encourage women to say what they want. I was watching this series on Netflix, Sex Education, because obviously I was preparing for this conversation. I was like, yeah, but like, what are the different lived experiences of people? Because in Sex Education, they go through all the different, like, pansexual, asexual, all the different kinds of things that come with sex. Sometimes we're told that it's black and white when really it's not that black and
not.
white. So my question is, for somebody who doesn't know know. Like in Tabi Singh's character, for example, Nkateko's character. I just look at her and I see in Tabi Singh. But like in Tabi Singh in the series, who starts off as a virgin, she's inexperienced. If she was to engage in a sexual relationship with her crush, I don't think she would know what it is that she wants and what pleasure looks like for her. But if she has to go about exploring that, what are the safe ways for you to kind of discover your sexuality and figure out what works for you?
So exploration is literally exploration. So you start doing things and see how you feel about the things that you're doing. Which is why
doing things how? What do you mean?
Like have you like kiss your partner?
Okay.
Touch them, kiss your crush, touch them. Also self-play. Guys, like I cannot punt enough the importance of self-pleasure. Because with self-pleasure, you're able to figure out, when I touch here, okay, when I touch here, not so much, right? But you're by yourself and it's quite safe. It's even before you get to intercourse. And I understand that as a people, there's a lot, particularly women, girls, they're not encouraged to play with themselves. I'm here today to tell you.
She said, I'm here to fight you.
Please. Because the only way you're ever going to know what feels good to you is when you've explored. And exploration can be with yourself and actually safest with yourself. And more often than not, satisfaction guaranteed.
She said, guaranteed.
Listen, Liz, and thank you. So that's the one of the safest ways. But also, don't rush yourself. I know about when you crash, yafuna, like, we must go to the goalpost. But like, what do you like when you're being kissed? Like, do you like the neck kisses? Do you like ear kisses? Where do you like being touched? Allow that to unfold for yourself, and can unfold with your crush. Without this need, I must just go to the goalpost and have the sex already. And so the safety of it is without intercourse. What are the things that you like? Right?
And how do you process then the shame or deconstruct the shame and the guilt that comes with self-play? Because obviously we're taught, don't do it, stay away from sex, stay away from this. And there are different organizations in society like churches and religious whatever that kind of play into the ideas of what your sexual journey is supposed to look like. So when you're looking to explore in a safe way by yourself, how do you deal with the shame? Because you can't do it if there's shame.
I think it's mindset.
So my thing is, there is shame in self-play, but you're thinking about having sexy
With another person.
with a whole other human being.
You're killing me.
A whole
So for
functioning.
me, when it comes to shame, it's again about efficacy and what you value and what you want. And I completely understand that for a while, because we're not taught that we belong to ourselves, it's difficult to get out of the mold of being guilty about exploring. All right. So look at I don't know, what do people look at this in our days?
I don't know. We're asking you.
Nudes.
What are we looking at?
Nudes. There is platforms where there's like naked bodies. Look at a body and see. Look at yourself in the mirror and see. And even without judging, because this is just a body, right? Look at this body and see, like, oh, my nipple, this one's bigger, this one's smaller. I remember Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng in her book, she says, take a mirror and look at your vagina. Look.
Go and see.
When they say do affirmations, look at yourself in the mirror. Look at the vagina. Look.
Say, I have a beautiful
without
vagina.
judgment. And these are the things that you do. Yes, Abba.
No, it's just, I just remember this other day.
Yeah.
This lady said, no, I actually do that. Actually take a mirror and look at my vagina. And we had like an elderly lady next to us. Like, oi. Yeah. What in Nango? What? Yo, she was so offended. And we're not talking about her, but she was so offended. Like,
On your behalf.
On my behalf. And the fact that that lady was telling me, she felt like she was one senior. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? So it's other people's stuff sometimes. So even when you look at your body without judgment, it supports you being less guilty and being shameless and just looking at yourself as just a human who exists. So that when you touch and there's a sensations that you're enjoying, it's less judgy for you to experience. It's a process. It's not going to happen over time. You might touch yourself and then after that be like, yo, what was that?
I hope the script writers for season 2 of DiCHiPi are listening and they are going to include it in there. Yeah, because I really think it would be helpful for people to be able to see that. Like, watch someone like Nkateko saying, who went through the journey of, oh, I've got a crush, I'm not really sure if I want to engage in sex, to then going and saying, oh, I don't want to engage in sex, but then maybe as she transforms and grows in her journey, then starts to explore in safe ways how to go about, figuring out your pleasures and where on the spectrum of asexual, pansexual, whatever else you lay on. Yeah.
Sexuality is such a wonderful thing to explore. And again, it requires you to not judge yourself.
Yes.
Because again, it's you, right? And there's always going to be voices everywhere. And I have to say that with me as well, because I am a bisexual woman, my own exploration of how that took place was difficult because of where I came from. But then it had to get to a point where I was like, yeah, I also like girls.
I saw
What can I
said
do?
that in the beginning, because now I'm looking at the time, I want to talk about this. I want to just come and please, may Angel in the Sky answer my prayer and bring her back so we can talk about this, because I think there's also so much to unpack in that, because once again, societal norms say you are either liking this or you are liking that. You can't like everything, you can't like everyone, you can't like someone who looks like you. And I think so many people carry so much shame with that as well, where they're not able to love proudly and live proudly. But we're nearing the end of our episode, and we like to end it off with 5 very hot questions, right? And these hot questions, ma'am, you've got 60 seconds to answer each. I mean, like, if you want to give us 70 seconds, it's also fine. But 60 seconds is the name of the game. Are you ready for the hot seat?
As ready as could ever be.
All right, question number 1. Is sex proof of being in love?
No.
Oh, okay, she's done.
Yeah.
that was a whole answer. Now that's 10 seconds. Okay, 2, female condom?
Absolutely. Even for the pleasure of it. That girl is such a hard-working girl for protection and pleasure. And because if you're a person who has a vagina, when it's outside, there's also clitoral stimulation. Please. Internal condoms are the girl.
Can I just say I've never seen a female condom in my life?
Bro,
Do better.
I have.
She said do better.
On
Do
set.
Really?
That was the first time. Literally.
Because I've heard about them in allo textbooks, but I've never actually seen one in real life.
I'm going to need you to do better.
I was so shocked.
This is me
better.
judging
I was
you.
so shocked
At
when I
what?
saw it, because it was my first time seeing it.
Yeah.
We were doing this other scene for Nkateko saying, and right after the scene, I was like, I want to see this.
Yeah, because then
to
it's...
see it live.
I want to see it live. I'm like, oh, so it's really there. Because I thought it was a room at some point. For real, because we don't talk about
That
it.
is why
Not
we have
this-
a professional here to
Exactly,
teach us. Thank
exactly.
you. Question number 3.
Yes.
Why is the female condom not as easy to access as the male condom?
Because for the longest of time, the male condom was the one that was essentialized. So there does need to be a lot more investment, because we actually call it an internal condom and an external condom.
Okay.
The internal condom, which is what is called the female condom, actually does support not only women or people with vaginas, but it can also be used by people who are in homosexual relationships, who are men who have sex with other men. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a discovery.
Yeah.
That is a discovery right
Yeah.
there. Wow, guys, sorry, my mind is so
What a
blown
wow.
right now. I said, wow. Wow, okay, anyway, question number 4.
Yeah.
What is the most popular contraceptive method amongst young women, and why?
Popular because it's accessible, or popular because that's what they want? Because those are two very different things.
I say tell us what they want.
What it is that they want is they would rather not.
Yeah.
But generally they would prefer long-acting contraceptives. And so because what is accessible is shots, 2 to 3 months, but what generally would be best, particularly if you know that for a period of 3 to 4 years, you are not trying to have a child, then you can look at IUD as well, which is inserted into the mouth of your uterus. And generally, the copper one is the best one because it has the least side effects.
Okay.
So considering what you're thinking about or where you are in terms of space of mind, those are the things that you can think about. But if you're someone who's diligent, then your pills is the girl. You can do the pills.
Diligent.
You must be. You can't slip up. But longer acting are generally popular around the month.
But obviously, also, if you choose a contraceptive like that, then you're still exposed to things like STIs and...
Any contraceptive that is not a condom exposes you to STIs. You are not safe from STIs. You are just...
not going to get pregnant.
Yeah.
99%.
Childbearing, for sure. Well, maybe not for sure. Better prepared there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen tweets of like children being born with IUDs. Like,
There's a whole conversation that we're not having about the efficacy levels of contraceptives, particularly when there's medication involved and when there is, like me, I'm a big girl. So how much do I need when I'm over a certain weight?
Dosage.
Yes. So there's
Wild.
conversations that still need to be had, that we need to have honestly with ourselves around whether or not it is as effective if you are.
That is a lot.
No, it is a lot because I'm even thinking about the fact that it's probably because things were usually designed for a specific kind of person.
Yeah.
And now that the world has opened up and everyone's got equal access to equal this and equal that, you got Bunda and Bunda needs extra care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But your final question, Miss Ma'am. Oh, wait, no, we just answered it.
Yeah.
The final question is going to be, I'm on a contraceptive. Why should I use a condom? Yeah, but we just said.
Please.
We just said. My question, actually, this is coming from my heart.
Yeah.
It's not from anyone's heart. My heart. Producer, I'm sorry out there, okay? How do you feel about male contraceptives? And not the condom. Male contraceptives, like the same way we take pills. Men take pills.
Yes, please.
I think, I don't even feel.
Oh.
I think that there needs to be greater effort to get male contraceptives accessible and available immediately. Because we know that women, girls, feminine presenting people have the hardest time negotiating safer sex because of the way kungakon. So if men were taking contraceptives and going for vasectomies and using condoms when they needed to, all the better. All the better, all the time. So we need, it's an emergency.
It's a president.
It's an emergency.
President. It's a state of the nation.
Well, please.
Please, when they do the budget speech, oh my goodness.
Addressing the nation.
We don't have it yet in the market.
Okay.
Because science is sciencing in a way that I don't want to even begin to talk about
into.
here. But we need those things. It's an emergency.
Yeah, because I think for me, it's more even just on the side effect basis of things. Like, girls go through so much. When you take that pill, I remember I had long periods and I was put on the contraceptives to kind of regulate my hormones and whatever. And what I was going through every single month and thinking to myself, girlies are doing that just because they don't want to fall pregnant. And what does the men go through?
Bro. And besides,
Arriving.
for girls, even if you get pregnant, it's for 9 months. But on the man's side, you can make
Abantu abaninzi. You can create a whole nation.
A whole community.
Yes, we love men. It's okay. We love men. We love our bodies. We will learn to affirm ourselves. But I want to thank you so much for your time. I think this has been a very, like, towards the end of it, you've made us really question ourselves and question life as a whole, which is a good thing because I think a lot of people can walk away with this with conversation starters and the conversations that will lead to a better society ultimately. So here's to more safer sex journeys in South Africa. But ma'am, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been really, really wonderful. Thank you.
Any extra comments? Where can we find you? Keep up with your work. Apple of the day.
Apple of the day.
Apple of the eve of the day.
You can find Eve's Apple the Mag on all social media platforms. These are the things we talk about. We are planted in joy, in pleasure, but we know that there's other stuff that needs to be taken care of. So sexual health, reproductive justice. So Eve's Apple the Mag, because there was Adam's apple. we needed to have an If's apple.
Oh, period. I love the equality. Thank you, ma'am. We thank you. And if you're navigating your sexual health journey, I really want to encourage you to check out Big Sis, or you can go to www.jiki.co.za for more information on how you can have a safer sex journey. Otherwise, from myself, it's been an absolute pleasure. Mwah! See you next time.